RBC is warning Canadians are beginning to fall back on credit payments, as well as the job market is destabilizing. And we're going to go through it in this video after Canada had a blockbuster jobs report, apparently. But when you actually dig into the details, it's not so blockbuster, and the mainstream has carried this narrative straight out there, and we're going to really dive into the nitty-gritty in this video. But first of all, let's see what RBC is saying about credit payments, because they're a massive bank, and we want to at least listen and dig apart what they're saying when they do talk. Canada's largest bank is seeing signs of stress as the cheap money binge haunts borrowers. RBC wrote to investors this week to warn households are beginning to fall behind on credit payments as the economy begins to slow and job losses mount. The bank is forecasting things are going to get a lot worse over the next few years. And it really is a binge when you think about it, guys. The amount of debt that households took on since 2020 is absolutely insane. I mean, when we're talking about mortgage debt, that went up like 20% just in the space of a couple of years. Just think about how high the mortgage debt was anyway. It's just an absolute disaster. So kind of crazy. So let's see what else they're saying here. So highly indebted households entered 2020 in a risky position. Yeah, you got that right. But there was no financial Armageddon. No. And why was that? It was because the government came out with a massive stimulus program, which actually broke the back on the middle class. Because you think about inflation, the cause of that was the massive stimulus programs that they did. And it wasn't just Canada. It was the United States. It was Europe. It was all these different countries that were doing it that caused this massive spike in inflation. Now, you've also had things that have happened since then that have just added to that pressure. But that was a lot of what happened from 2020 and 2021. So it's important to note where that came from, which was the government. Again, Canada's household debt to income ratio had exceeded pre-pandemic levels, and it's remained elevated ever since, says Robert Hogue, assistant chief economist at RBC. So yeah, that's actually happened. And then you can see the delinquencies, and I'm going to really say this is pretty much nothing because, I mean, yes, they are rising. That's something to note. But are delinquencies historically high right now? No, and especially when you look at mortgages. But again, the mortgage numbers are kind of suppressed by all these people who are in negative amortization, who in my view, might not be in your view, are in default, they're in distress, and they're just, you know, the bank is just adding more risk by extending them more credit. It's just obvious to anybody who thinks critically or logically, but to those who are brain dead, just don't understand how that creates a more precarious situation. If your borrower isn't already paying you, they're not even already paying you principal, and then you go and extend them more credit. It's just absolutely baffling, the risk that these banks continue to take on. We recently highlighted that aggressive population growth isn't preventing GDP from slowing. RBC's forecast sees the economy slowing even further, falling into recession later this year, exactly like I've said as well. They anticipate this will push unemployment from the current 5% to 6.6% in Q1 2024. That works out to 342,000 more unemployed Canadians in less than a year from now. So just think about that. And that is a rosy forecast, in my opinion. 342,000 households who can't meet their payment obligations. What is that going to do? Is that going to release some supply onto the housing market? These are all questions that we have to ask ourselves. Or is the government going to come in and say, we'll pay your mortgage for you? And the only caveat with us doing that is we're going to take ownership in your house as we pay more of your mortgage, and then you'll just have to buy it off us later at a later date. I mean, I think that would be the stupidest program ever, and it would be like you'll own nothing and be happy, essentially. That's what they're getting towards. But this government never ceases to surprise me on the stupidity front, so you never know. You can't rule anything out. The fallout will be significantly more debt problems. Mortgage delinquencies are expected to see the rate reverse half the decline over the next year. It will be accompanied by consumer insolvencies rising nearly 30% over the next 3 years. I think that's really rosy too. Canadian business insolvencies are already on the climb and back to typical levels. So just really back to pre-pandemic levels, but it's really the trend, and are they going to rise further than that? And I think the answer is obvious, because you just have to look at the debt that they have and the interest rates that we have right now compared to the past. So, you know, it's just creating this crazy environment. And it's important to think about the businesses too, because a lot of people just focus on the household sector, but it's really the business sector that will cause a lot of the unemployment. A lot of the high debt loads that are held in the business sector will cause that higher unemployment. And that's why you continue to see weaker job markets in these provinces like Alberta, where businesses are holding a lot of debt from recessions that they've been through time and time again, because it's kind of that boom bust cycle has created these weak businesses, we could say. So, and we're going to get onto that right now, actually. So just wanted to show you what the mainstream is saying, and you can see here the mainstream is saying Canada's job market stays resilient despite signs of cooling economy. Okay, Globe and Mail, we're going to actually dig into the data now and pick this apart, because that is not true in my opinion. Okay, so I've highlighted the unemployment rate. So April is actually this one right here, as you can see, and then this column here is March, so you can see that. So basically, we're going to go down here, and you've got Newfoundland and Labrador. You can see the unemployment went down there. It went from 10.3% to 10.1%. You go down to PEI, unemployment went from 6.6 to 7.1%. So, I mean, the unemployment rate's high there anyways. It's gone up. Nova Scotia went from 5.7% to 6.3%. Again, that's quite a jump in unemployment. New Brunswick, again, went from 5.8% to 6.1%. You've got Quebec went from 4.2% to 4.1%, not exactly a massive move. And you had Ontario go from 5.1% to 4.9%. So it was only actually in 3 provinces where unemployment went up. Yet you're seeing, oh yeah, the job numbers are absolutely fantastic. Not really. The country is really bifurcated when it comes to employment right now. I think it's important to note that, because we're a real channel here. We talk about the real facts instead of actually what the mainstream is peddling. And even the Globe and Mail, who tends to believe that they are, you know, a little less biased, is coming out saying, oh, the job market's fantastic, guys. No, it's just 2 provinces are skewing the numbers a lot. So you've got Ontario there, which is down. More unemployment going up in Manitoba, 4.7% to 4.8%. In Saskatchewan, the unemployment rate went from 4.7% to 4.8%. In Alberta, the unemployment rate went back up again from 5.7% to 5.9%. And in Alberta, I mean, I don't track every single province. I track Alberta because that's the province that I live in. And it's been interesting because ever since June last year, unemployment's actually been on the rise. It's up about 30% since then. But, you know, that's all kept hush-hush. Don't, you know, you can't talk about these kind of things. Everything's great. The economy's fantastic. Just move here. British Columbia, that jumped a lot. It went from 4.5% to 5%. And you got to remember, with BC, there's a lot of tech there. So BC actually has a lot of tech companies that are there. So they will get impacted by the massive amount of layoffs and the fact that the tech industry is on the down because the everything bubble is bursting. And what was tech? Tech was levered up. They were levered up to the hills. So it's absolutely crazy kind of what's going on. So you can see the view of how the unemployment is not what the mainstream media is saying. If we flick back here, it's really not what they're saying here. So, and it wasn't just this article, it's many different articles that were saying exactly the same thing. We're saying the job was a blockbuster report. And if you just looked at the headline number, you would have been fooled. You would have been thinking, wow, yeah, that was a really good report. But it's only when you actually dig into the nuance of that job report, you see that it's only actually 3 provinces. And it's one of the provinces in particular, Ontario, which skews the numbers because it's the most popular province, which makes sense in a way, but that's not going to show you the bigger picture of what's actually going on in the country. You know, you can't say Canada's job market is healthy when it's really just Ontario's and vice versa. So it's kind of crazy. And I hope you kind of got something from this live stream. You know, defaults are on the rise. Even RBC seeing that the economy is heading into a recession, which I find funny because they are extending their clients more credit when it comes to these stupid fixed payment variable rate mortgages. However, you know, they're forecasting Canada is going to be in a recession by the end of the year and everything's going to be great. The unemployment rate is only going to go up 1%. Don't worry, guys. Everything's going to be fine. Government's going to be here for you, like they keep telling you. We're going to be here for you. That's all we're here for. I mean, have they been here for you the past 3 years? Have they got you through this? I don't know. They haven't got me through this. They need to get the hell out of there. Let's be fair. All right, guys. So if you've enjoyed this video, you might like this video here. You might also like this video here. Coming from England for you today. This will be a pre-recorded live stream because one, I have to check the quality is decent enough, and two, the time differences. So anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.